Okay, so Wednesday I talked to you about the 6 human needs. Yesterday was about the class 4 behaviours. So just a quick recap, your 4 behaviour classes were characterised as, they are characterised as unconscious emotional responses. They're habits and behaviours that kind of sometimes catch us off guard. We will recognise those because they don't always feel good and often have like painful consequences. But we're not all about the negative. We're going to be looking at class 1 and 2 behaviours, hopefully, which are good for everyone, good for the whole, and the greater good. And then we... on Wednesday, so that was yesterday, we spoke about the 4 classes of behaviours, and then Wednesday we were speaking about the 6 human needs, which are built on your motivations. So the behaviours are separate to your motivations. So your motivations were your certainty or variety or uncertainty. You then had all the other ones. There's six of them. You've got your love and connection, and you can go back and have a look at it. I'm not going to bore you with all of those again. So 6 human needs built on your motivations that influence our decisions, and they then lead to the behaviours I was talking about yesterday. So your motivations influence your decisions and lead to the behaviours that we have a tendency to indulge. Just to get you to understand that. Hiya, Dance World. So the good behaviours we're looking at, the 1 and 2, is where number 1 is it's just a good for everybody. Number 2 is the feelings around that are generally uncomfortable feelings in the short term, but lead to the greater good and good for you, good long-term consequences, and good for the greater good. 3 and 4 generally end up with not so great consequences, so we want to be choosing 1 and 2. I'm repeating myself. So we're going to help you to kind of understand and transform your behaviour in a way to help optimise your happiness and fulfilment in life. Wouldn't that be good? And obviously, life happens, and hi Emma, and we don't always live in happy all the time. That's just not life, unfortunately. But if we can learn the tools to kind of bring ourselves back to happy and to look at that glass as half full and kind of look at what is best for us in the long term, is probably going to do you a lot more good than always focusing on doing things that have a negative impact on your life. So there's one little extra part to kind of understand briefly, and that is the Maslow's pyramid of needs, which is like the basic needs. So first of all, when we, as a human being, the hierarchy of Maslow's needs, the first priority that we all have to meet before moving on to anything else is our physiological needs. Okay, so that's food, water, sleep, super important. We've not spoken about that yet, but I will be talking about it. You may be starting to feel better because you're having more rested sleep, because you're not having to get up and go out anywhere. You might be having less sleep because of stresses or what have you, but we'll work out how we kind of take those stresses away to help you sleep. That will be in the future, in the next week or so. That's the breathing and so on. So they're your physiological needs. And then we move on, and then we're able to then step to the second layer, which is safety and security and your health. So it's all about what keeps you living. Okay, so if you feel like your security is going to be pulled away from you, you're going to have no home, that's what you need to deal with next. So first of all, you've got to be alive, so you have to do the breathing, the sleeping, the water, the food, etc. Safety is next. Then we go on to the third level, which is love. So that's belonging, connection, friendships, you know, it's that side of making your life more fulfilling. And then on to the fourth level, which is esteem. So you're talking about your improving your self-confidence, which is where we come in, hopefully. Goals, respect from other people. So those kind of layers are the order that we do actually live our lives by physiologically. Okay. So going back to the 6 core human needs, it's how do we balance these needs? I want you to ask yourself some questions. So, if you can go back to the Wednesdays one and look at some notes, maybe you made notes, maybe you didn't, have a listen to that live that I did on Wednesday about why do you prioritise some needs over others? And you might have a quick answer to that, but I want you to think a bit deeper. I want you to look at each of the needs and look at, well, how is that working for you in each of the needs? Okay. So if it's not working for you, you know, ask yourself questions. How does working that way serve your life or your goals? All right. So for example, the significance over connection. So a lot of you had significance came out on top. So if you're prioritising your significance, there is a very high chance that the connection with people is not going to be a priority. So therefore your relationships may suffer. So it's like, well, is that more important to you to have more significance? So then the relationships won't be so important for you anyway. But if is that conflicting? Are your needs kind of conflicting with what you'd want them to be? So this is like what kind of choices and decisions are you currently making that keep your needs where they are? All right. How do your choices reflect how you subconsciously prioritise your needs? Okay. Are they reflecting, you know, your choices? Are they reflecting what your subconscious needs are? So that what you know, if you did that test that I set you, try and ask yourself these questions, okay? Is there enough growth or contribution in your life? So that was the spiritual side that I said to you, is the last 2 needs were growth and contribution. Do you even want to have any growth, like spiritually, emotionally, intellectually? Do you want to grow your contribution? Do you want to be volunteering? Do you want to be doing anything that has an impact on others? How do you want to change that? Having a look at how things are for you. If things don't feel quite right, we need to step back and stop and be looking at this. Okay, so I'm just looking at my little notes because I've really scribbled a lot. Okay, so if you're sitting in, for example, uncertainty, and you prefer uncertainty or variety over certainty, so you're probably more of a risk taker. Whereas if you prefer certainty, you're probably always in a very steady job. Now, if your need is uncertainty, and for example, you're planning this wild trip across the world, but you're sitting in a really steady job, the boredom of being in that steady job gives you quite a sick feeling. It's a little bit like, I don't want to go, kind of, there's a conflict. So that's where the conflict is. Your need is uncertainty, but that's conflicting with your actions. So you will never feel satisfied then. So you always need to be following your highest priority first and see how you can meet that need. So you need to be thinking about, how can I meet this need? Do I need to be in a job where I'm the boss and I can have variety? So it's about thinking of each individual need and where that sits for you. So just for now, just close your eyes and just think about the need that comes out on top for you. And while you're thinking about that, think about, how are you meeting that need? Is that ticking all the boxes for you? Does it go against something else that you would love? Does it not fit in with that thing? So you might not even be able to think of something right now. So for example, I love helping people and I want to contribute. I want to be giving and helping people. But to me, connection is very important as well, with my family and friends. But where I love to give and help lots of people, often the connection with my friends and family suffers. So I would then have to sit and think, how can I make this a win-win situation? Just take another couple of moments to think about that. Okay, so now thinking as well with your eyes closed, us talking about your behaviour patterns. And if you worked out yesterday that most of the time you are living, running from class 3 or 4 behaviours, but you then would have a few conflicting needs on top of that as well, you're not going to be sitting in happiness, because the class 3 or 4 behaviours will always send you towards a consequence that's not what you would have wanted. So we now want to work out how we can transform your behaviour strategies. Okay, so we want to be doing that first. So thinking about how you can change how you deal with each problem or challenge that comes up for you. And after this, I'd like you to go away and think about a decision you have to make. And think about an answer to it that could actually make everybody happy. You may think, well, not everybody is going to be happy in this at the end of the day. You're going to try and find a solution that could meet most people's needs. So trying to transform that into a class 1 or 2 behaviour, it's probably going to be a class 2 behaviour where it's uncomfortable and doesn't feel good in the first instance. And then we're wanting to find a solution that is going to feel uncomfortable in the short term, but be good for you in the long term, and going to end up with good consequences in the long term, and will be for the greater good of the majority of the people that it will affect. So it's about changing that into a different kind of behaviour and getting out of these habits. It's about taking the time, and that's where I'm trying to bring you back to, is not rushing through your life and making quick decisions that you have to make because you're on the go all the time. We need to stop and we need to breathe. Okay, so it's pain and pleasure work. So we need you to try to manipulate how you view pain and pleasure. Okay, so you may be associating long-term pain with the consequences of indulging in a specific behaviour. So think about that. What behaviour type do you generally fall into? Okay, the class 3 behaviour, which feels really good in the short term, but generally has bad consequences long term and isn't good for the greater good. All right, so how can we flip that? There's a good book called Flip That, actually. So I want you to be thinking about that. This hasn't covered everything that I really wanted to cover with you today, because it's quite a big subject and it's just lots and lots of information. But I really want to help everyone to kind of rewire how you do things so that you can have, better outcomes and feel brighter, feel happier. So think about that. Just try it with one thing and then do something with it. Try this out. Be my experiments, okay? I've tried it. It works. And it's easy to forget and not do it. It's about making this a habit. Try it for 3 days. Then try it for 3 weeks. Try and extend that to 3 months and make it your long-term habit. Okay, everyone. Love and leave you. Look after yourselves over this weekend. And I shall see you again Monday.